So Keyshawn Davis has been calling out everyone recently, and recently called out Pitbull, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, who of course is the WBC. I don't think he's the interim champion, but he drew with Lamont Roach for the interim championship, and is a guy who was world champion, I believe, at 140, and again he's looking to make another run to a world championship, and it's pretty close. He's up at near the top of the division, right? Because if you're fighting for interim championships, you're at the top of the division. Pitbull is known for being a brawler, hyper aggressive, big punches, big combinations, powerful puncher, brawler. That's what he's known for. And he's also known for not ducking the smoke. You look at his resume. Sure, he's lost to some guys. He lost to Tank, but he doesn't duck the smoke. He's one of these guys that's largely avoided, not the one who does the avoiding. If that makes a lot of sense. So, Pitbull Cruz is an interesting fight. It's very specific style, very unique style, hard to deal with, and seems to be down to fight Keyshawn Davis. Of course, just because two guys on social media have said that they want to fight each other does not mean the fight is going to happen even necessarily. So there's still obviously a lot of negotiations that have to go on, because I think Pitbull is with PBC and Keyshawn, I've got no idea who Keyshawn signed to. Maybe Top Rank. I don't know, maybe he's with the Ring. And no, he's not the Ring, but maybe he's just got those deals with Turkey Al Sheikh. At the end of the day, if a fight wants to get made, a fight will get made. Right? If the money's there, that makes sense. And if Turkey's willing to fund it, then that fight will take place. But yeah, Keyshawn's a very good boxer. Keyshawn's an undefeated world champion, former world champion at lightweight, was a WBO world champion at lightweight, and arguably, in my opinion, had the best win of his career against his toughest opponent of his career, in Jermaine Ortiz. Where Jermaine Ortiz is a guy who is, yes, largely known for the losses on his resume, but those losses were against Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko, both in fights where he didn't get completely destroyed, in my opinion. I think early on in both fights, he gave a good account of himself in both fights. On the back end of the fight, both guys' quality showed, and it was clear that he wasn't on their level, but he gave a good account for himself. Keyshawn Davis dominated Jermaine Ortiz. Didn't even let him get out of first or second gear, and just ran through him. And just consistently just went through the gears, and Jermaine Ortiz had nothing for him. Jermaine Ortiz had nothing for Keyshawn Davis, and he had something for Teofimo, at least early on. Had something for Lomachenko, at least early on. But Keyshawn Davis was able to go out there, implement his game plan. Keyshawn Davis, he's not, just because he's friends with the guys like Shakur, and he's in the same generation as Devin Haney's and the Shakurs and the Teofimos, he does not fight really anything like those guys. Keyshawn Davis is a lot more flat-footed, which comes with its advantages and drawbacks, of course. He's more flat-footed, so out of all of those guys, he punches the hardest. Out of, Shakur, Devin, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo, Keyshawn punches the hardest, in my opinion, out of all of those guys. Because he sits down and he shots more than any of them. Right, when you do that, of course, you're going to be open for counter shots. Unfortunately, that's the name of the game. Like, if you sit down on your shots, you're making yourself a stationary target. You're more likely to be there to be hit for those shots. And that's not to say that Keyshawn's not defensively responsible. It's just a drawback of his style. It's really what it is. It's just a drawback of his style. But that being said, it's a damn good style, because he's an undefeated former world champion looking to campaign at 140 of 147, win a world championship. He's been calling out a lot of the world champions at 147. Not really been calling out the world champs at 140, I guess. Shakur is a world champion at 140. He's not going to fight Shakur, even though he's ranked number 1 for the WBO. He's shown literally no interest in wanting to fight Shakur. He's literally calling out every single name under the sun. And I get it, of course, they're friends, so they always said probably from young that they were never going to fight each other. Whatever, I get it. But there's other world champions on 140 that he's not really been calling out. Richardson Hitchens, he's not really been calling out. Actually, he has called out Richardson Hitchens a few times, to be fair. Who else? No one's calling out Gary Antoine Russell. So, do you know what I mean? What can you really expect? No one's calling out Gary Antoine Russell. Nobody, Richardson Hitchens is sort of out of the picture, and he's not going to be fighting Shakur. Dalton Smith he's called out a few times. He's shown willingness to fight a Dalton Smith if that fight could ever get made down the line. I think there may be some interest from Matchroom. In my opinion, there should be some interest in that, because both guys are ticket sellers. If they put it in the UK, Dalton Smith can shift tickets in the UK. You do it in America, Keyshawn can shift tickets in America, and Keyshawn's going to sell it. If you do that fight in America, you do press tour, you roll out, it's a couple press tours, get some hype, put some media backing behind this. This could be a very big event. I could see this becoming a big event. Otherwise, it could be put on the undercard of one of the ring cards, which again, would be nothing wrong with that because we love the stacked ring cards. But I'm talking about everyone else but Pitbull Cruz v Keyshawn Davis, which is the fight that most recently Keyshawn has sort of said that he's into. And I guess he's seeing Lamont Roach's performance against Pitbull and seeing that there's definitely chinks in the armour. And we know Pitbull's lost before. We know he's a beatable guy. Lamont Roach outboxed him. And it was a draw. So Keyshawn's thinking, well, he can do as good as that and more. He can outbox Pitbull, and Keyshawn's got a bigger punch than Pitbull. He's a harder puncher than... not harder puncher than Pitbull, a harder puncher than Roach. So he's probably looking at thinking, okay, well, if I hit Pitbull with the same shots that Roach hit Pitbull with, I'm going to knock him out. That's likely Keyshawn's thinking behind him wanting that fight. And fair play. I'm not going to say he's wrong. He is a bigger puncher than Roach. So, you know what I mean? You got to take it at face value almost. But Keyshawn Davis is a guy who's hittable. Even Jermaine Ortiz, when Keyshawn was walking through Jermaine Ortiz wasn't a lamb to the slaughter. He was a live body in there. He was throwing punches back and was trying to stay in the fight. And he would catch Keyshawn every now and again. It wouldn't hurt him, but he would catch him. And there is a difference. Because you can get punched and not necessarily get hurt. And especially Keyshawn rides the punches well. He doesn't let it change him from the game plan, which is what the best boxers do. The best boxers can take a shot, okay, take a beat, right back to the game plan, right back to foot on the gas. That's what the best boxers can do. Now, Inoue's great at it. Lomachenko was great at it. A lot of the modern day greats are great at taking a punch, okay, back to the game plan, let's go. Keyshawn can do that. Granted, not been against as big of a puncher as Pitbull. Because Jermaine Ortiz doesn't hit as hard as Pitbull. Jermaine Ortiz has a number of knockouts on his resume, but he's not Pitbull. Pitbull can bang. Pitbull can really bang. So, that's an interesting fight, bro. That's a real interesting fight, and I'd be curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think Keyshawn Davis should be fighting Pitbull Cruz next? And if that fight does get made, who do you think wins it? Let me know in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.